Court reporters hold one of the most important roles in the justice system. We're entrusted with the official records of the courts, and we also have to run our own businesses, which is not something most of us were prepared for. I'm Bryn Seymour, freelance court reporter and life coach, and I invite you to join the discussion about the problems we face and the solutions we create on the unique journey of a stenographer.
Welcome to the Entrepreneurial Court Reporter Podcast.
I am so excited for the launch of this podcast. It is 2023. Can you believe it? Happy New Year and happy birthday to me. I'm so super excited to share with you all the things that are in my mind and how I came to do this podcast. And I actually just recorded the first episode, and I listened to it, maybe half of it, and I just wasn't liking the vibe. I didn't like the energy. I didn't like the feeling. It felt boring to me the way I was speaking. I don't know, and I cannot put out a boring content for you guys. I want the energy to be good. I want you guys to feel uplifted. I want it to be positive. I want you to feel inspired. And so I am re-recording it, and I'm just going to wing it because maybe having a script or having notes just kind of didn't work for me. I mean, everybody's different, so I just have to try different things. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to run a podcast or, how to launch a podcast or anything, but if I were to wait until I'm ready and know what I'm doing, then the answer would be that I would never do it. Like, when would I do it? Never. So might as well just learn how to do it as I'm doing it and find out what works best for me. Now, what I want to talk about in this episode is I was originally going to talk about goals, because actually my husband says that he thinks the reason my birthday is on New Year's is because I'm so obsessed with goals and setting goals and accomplishing them, planning for them, and carrying out that plan. And I do love that, and it's so much fun. So we're going to talk a lot about that on this podcast. But for this episode, I really just want to share what's on my mind and tell you why I'm doing this podcast. And I'll tell you the reason I'm not doing it. It's not because I'm a good speaker. It's not because I think I'm a good court reporter or like better than other people or have some kind of authority to tell people or teach people anything. But it is because I have struggled ever since graduating from school. I thought it was going to be so easy to start working, especially because court reporting, writing on the machine, on the stenography machine, it just came so naturally to me. It was so easy to learn. I broke records. I finished faster than most people. It took me 14 months, like I mentioned in the beta tester episode about my journey to court reporting. But anyways, I have struggled ever since graduating and starting to work because I didn't realize that court reporting and freelance court reporting is running a business. I was not prepared to run a business, never had the desire in my life to be an entrepreneur or to be a business owner at all. There's just way too many little details in my mind, at least. I just never had the desire to learn everything and to figure that out. There's a reason that people who want to run businesses go to business school. There's a reason that it's another 4 years after your general college education, because I don't want to be negative or anything, but it's a lot to run a business. So when we're thrown into running a business without learning how or being trained or prepared in school, it was not a part of our curriculum, at least mine, it wasn't. So we kind of have to figure it out. And that requires discipline, and that requires helping each other out. We need to be united. We need to talk about these things, and not just on Facebook, because first of all, I want to thank you all for being a part. If you're on Facebook and you're in the court reporting groups, thank you for being there and for being willing to answer questions and for being so supportive. Actually, it's really amazing, the tool that we have, the Facebook community that we have for court reporters. There's a group for so many different aspects of court reporting. Like, my favorite is the Keith's Court Reporter Helpline and Court Reporters Vent Uncensored. I feel like those groups are the most active, and court reporters are always posting questions and helping each other out. Like, whenever I post a question, I feel like I get immediate responses. Like, right away, I'll have 4 or 5 responses that I can usually find the answer from. And it just helps so much to communicate with each other and bounce experiences and questions and ideas off of each other. Because again, like I said, there's just so much that we don't learn in school. So we need to help each other. And so Facebook is such a great way to do that. But the thing about Facebook that I've noticed is there could be a better way to communicate with each other and to build a community that involves more human interaction. Like Facebook, yes, it's good to read each other's texts on the screen, like post messages and respond to them in that way. But when you hear someone speaking or actually have face-to-face communication, whether it's virtual or in person, I mean, I know that the in-person events are popular for a lot of people, but for me personally, I have a lot of priorities, extracurricular activities, and commitments and things that I have in my personal life. And, attending these in-person summits and conferences where you have to travel to California or Las Vegas or I don't know, I have attended one of them, and it's not something that I'm willing to prioritize and miss a weekend with my family. I don't get me wrong, I do have passion about being the best I can be, reaching my full potential. I know I have so much potential, as do all court reporters. We're in like the top 10th percentile of people because 90% of the people who try don't make it through school. So the fact that we did and that we are working court reporters means something about us and our potential and how much we can accomplish and do whatever we set our minds to doing. And yes, I do have the mind and the heart and the desire and the passion to become the best court reporter I can be, to make connections, to network, to share experiences and learn. And I do understand that it's important to go to these conferences, but I also am committed and dedicated to the other things that I have pretty much every day, every evening in the weekdays and every weekend. I'm always doing something that I've planned ahead. So what I want to say is that having that like in-person communication with people, it really makes a difference. Like having that human connection, that personal connection, whether it could be virtual, like just hearing someone's voice or speaking to someone over the phone or over a Zoom meeting, instead of just reading text on a computer, which requires you to sit down at your computer or on your phone, be scrolling and looking at a screen. But when it comes to the human aspect and interaction, like for YouTube videos or a podcast, I find that it's much more personable and easier to connect. And it is also more convenient because, again, you don't have to be sitting down at your computer. You can be listening to it while you are doing laundry or cleaning or driving or cooking. All these things that we have, household duties and things that we have to do, we can multitask and listen to a podcast while we're doing it. And I personally love listening to podcasts in order to learn things and kind of direct my brain instead of letting it run on default, because most of the 60,000 thoughts that we have that cross our minds during the day and a lot of them are not positive, and a lot of them are just running on default and just kind of like there without us really knowing. And so I love to feed my brain and direct it in the way that I want it to go. And listening to a podcast is a good way to do that. So running a business is not really like an easy thing to figure out on your own. So this podcast is all about tips, advice, and sharing experiences, sort of like bringing the Facebook community to a podcast for people like me who aren't always able to go to the in-person events, who really do want to up level, but who just don't have the resources or maybe don't know where to find them because they're so busy and committed to things in their lives. So so I'm so excited to talk about everything related to running a business. I felt like there was a point in my life, in my career, where I felt like I was where I was literally working like 24/7. There was a lot of data entry, portal submissions, lengthy, unnecessary portal submissions. There was a lot of tracking down information, responding to emails, formatting, troubleshooting. And it just felt, even though I was making good money, it felt like I wasn't free. Like I got into court reporting to be free, to have my own schedule, to have a flexible life, to be able to travel and do things that I want to do, spend time with family, But instead of the freedom, I found that I was kind of bogged down with this work and constantly having to respond to things and constantly having to think about work. And even when I was trying to actually do something with friends and family or do some kind of extracurricular, I could not be fully present because I was always thinking about like things that I forgot to do or all the work that I have to take care of and that I really shouldn't be doing this because I don't actually have time because of all the work that I have. Like, when am I going to get it all done? So it just was like a state of overwhelm, constant overwhelm and stress. And so one day I was doing laundry. And as I'm doing laundry, because I like to listen to things and learn things while I'm doing those types of tasks, I was like, I really need to learn about bookkeeping or accounting or something. So I just went to Apple Podcasts, searched for the word bookkeeping, and there was a podcast that came up from the life coach school called Entrepreneurial Bookkeeping. And this is, by the way, how I was introduced to coaching and the life coach school. This podcast was just so, like, how do I explain it? It was just, I felt like finally I'm hearing someone who speaks my language. I'm like, wow, the person who's speaking, like, she's feeling exactly how I felt. the way that she felt about finances is exactly how I felt about it. I've never been able to feel so connected to someone before. Everything she said, every advice she gave in that podcast, I really wanted to put it into practice. I even purchased the course that she had for $400 at the end of that podcast called Entrepreneurial Bookkeeping. And I did the course. I mean, I listened to every single module, but I didn't really apply everything that I learned. I didn't sit down and take notes, or really put it into practice. I just listened to it and got inspiration from it and knew that I wanted to find the right team to work with, because again, like I said, business is finances, business is money. Like if you're not taking care of your money and your finances, then you're never going to feel settled in your business. You're always going to feel overwhelmed, or like something is just going over your head. That's how I felt. But anyway, I don't have all the answers, but I do have such an ambitious spirit, and I'm filled with curiosity, and I'm very driven to actually find these answers and not only keep them to myself, but to share with others who might be suffering the exact same thing. So, though I'm launching a podcast, before I even know how to launch a podcast, before I even know how to really interview guests properly, there's no wrong way to do anything. So if there's something that you feel called to do, I would recommend just doing it, because there are so many thoughts that have been holding me back from doing it and taking action. Like, oh, well, I don't know how to do this, and I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to edit audio. I don't know who to hire to edit audio, or I can't even afford it, so I have to do myself, but I don't know, saying like, I don't know how. Okay, well, I'm not going to know how until I actually try. So yeah, though I don't really know what I'm doing, I'm doing this for the sake of creating what I always wanted and couldn't find: a free, easily accessible resource to talk about these issues and struggles, to help each other, and to connect with each other. Yeah, that's the most important aspect, is the human connection, like actually connecting with my colleagues and creating a community that is dedicated to the growth of the industry and of court reporters in general. So I'm so thankful and so happy that I finally got the strength and the motivation and the discipline to actually sit down and record this podcast, though I felt like I was never going to be ready. Thank you for being patient with me and for listening, and I hope that it provided some value to you. And by the way, not only happy New Year, but it's also my birthday. So if you want to give me a birthday present, I would definitely appreciate a 5-star review if you like this podcast, or any feedback would be much appreciated. If you have negative feedback, I would love it for you to privately email me. There will be many changes coming as we rebrand and as I learn more about podcasting, so stay tuned. I'm so glad to have you with me, and I can't wait to hear from you. All right, so have a great new year. Happy 2023, and I will catch you in the next episode. Bye.